So I found that there's 7 different money personalities, and there's, Sam the Saver and Maverick the Moneymaker and Gary the Gambler. And we all have these personalities within us, but there's a dominant personality that drives what we do.
When you need some advice, never sacrifice, always get it right. Ask the Planman. Finance, insurance, and more.
Welcome, everyone. This is Ask the Planman, and I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein, and I have a belief that each and every one of us has a right to financial dignity and deserve proper planning in your lives. I've been working with clients since 1986, helping them address their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats when it comes to the world of finance and insurance. And I have the pleasure of being joined by Lisa Drennon today. Lisa is the founder of I Date Money. She's a wealth activator. She can tell us what that means. She's been in the finance and insurance industry 1 year less than me, 1987. She has been implementing her unconventional money multiplier system. She's going to be talking to us about that today, but it enabled her to retire 2.5 years early. We're going to have her back for this. She retired from the Social Security Administration, and I've got a bone to pick with her. There's a lot of conversation there. So Lisa, you and I will do a second episode. Her mission now, and I don't know, you're going to lose my male audience, which is predominant here. She's on a mission to only help women. I don't know why, but only help 1 million women, not 990,000, not 1,050,000. She wants to help exactly 1 million women become millionaires themselves. You take a couple guys along the way?
I will. I'll take a few guys.
Lisa, welcome to the show. I want to start out with, you've got this system called the Money Multiplier. Tell us what that is.
Yeah, it's so awesome to connect with you, Bruce. Thank you for having me. My Money Multiplier System was birthed from the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Back in 1992, it was introduced to me, and it was something I'd always practiced. But, every time we get income, you save 10% and you give away 10%. And that worked great for me all my life. But then something got some hiccups along the road, and I wanted to become a financial coach. So I got my certification, and it was all restriction. Oh, when you work with clients, make sure you cut their expenses, no Starbucks, no this. And I'm like, ew, that's awful. So I went into this other program that was teaching on finances and about balance in 7 key areas. It's called ULA. You may be familiar with it. But ULA has a green gap theory, and the green gap theory is 10% fun money. And when I started incorporating this into my own lifestyle, all of a sudden I was having fun with finances. So thus born my money multiplier system, which includes 10% fun money, 10% giving, 10% saving. We should always pay ourselves first. Sure. And then it's a combination of money mindset, multiplying our money, and managing our money. In all the years I've been working with people in the insurance and finance world, I've heard the same thing over and over again. I'm afraid that there's not going to be enough money. And a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, will take all of the money that they have and put it right back into their business. Sure. Or put it towards debt. And they don't really have a money management system, and their thought process is totally off. They just think, I have to pay this bill. I have to do this. It's like, no, you get to. And when you implement the money multiplier system, it works because you're always taking care of you. Plus you're creating that reciprocal energy of giving and receiving while you're multiplying your money.
So 10% for themselves to have some fun. I used to call it the FU money. You got to have some play money, right? Like FU or Vegas and that type of stuff. If you like the ponies, right? Now it's DraftKings, and 10% for savings, which some might say might be a little bit too low, but all right. And then 10% for charitable giving, so tithing and giving back, and then of course the 30 to 40% for Uncle Sam. So we're probably you're probably using a budget somewhere living in the means of around 40% of their cash flow.
Yeah. So the money multiplier system has nothing to do with the money management system. It's just a system that gets people started to think differently about their finances, because so many people I don't believe in percentages for certain budget items like your 4 walls. That should be, those are fixed expenses. So I have a system that I teach with money buckets, where we look at what are your true expenses, what are your needs, your wants. We have a I love debt worksheet. We have, we create a wealth activation roadmap, but it incorporates the money multiplier system because most people will take all of their money and they'll either put it into, back into their business towards operating expenses. They don't even think about Uncle Sam. They'll put it, towards their, whatever it is that they're spending it on, their debt. A lot of business owners have debt. So for my entrepreneurs that I work with, we have a separate system that we use for their business income. They cut themselves a paycheck, 50% for the paycheck. That goes over to their personal fund. They come to me, they don't keep that money separate. So I'm like, no, we need to keep that money separate. So, just teaching them the simple strategy to how to manage their money for their business, how to transfer that over to their personal expenses. And then we incorporate these systems so that they can build wealth while they're paying down debt, covering their operating expenses, and still taking care of their families.
So some of the questions we have, if somebody's upside down on their cash flow, how do you help pull them out of that nosedive, right? So, and the first piece that was popping in my head is you're mentioning and referencing business owners, entrepreneurs, but your system can and should work for anybody who's on a salary and has a job as well. True?
Yes.
I want to make sure we're not excluding, that side. If so, it doesn't matter where you're drawing your revenue stream from, whether you're self-employed or have a paying job. The point is that you're using kind of take it off the top method to then implement some of this, and then the rest will fall into line.
Yeah, it's all about knowing what you have coming in and what's going out. A lot of people don't even know how much money they're receiving. So I work with people who have 9-to-5 jobs, who have, sporadic income from different commissions, a lot of real estate brokers. And, what happens is they have all these different multiple income streams coming in and there's no organization. Sure. They'll collect money from, Venmo, PayPal, Stripe, all over the place. And then it'll go into whatever bank account, wherever they need it to go. So like if they have a bill due and they get money from a client, that money goes to that bill, like all of it. It's like, well, okay, why are you doing that? And then when you ask them like, well, what are your expenses? What's your overhead? They have no idea what their overhead is. So they're just literally living paycheck to paycheck or feeling like they are because they have no idea. So the I date money concept is if money was a person, what would your relationship look like? Are you dating? Are you married? Are you ghosting each other? Are you frenemies? Like what's going on? Like if money was a client, how are you paying attention to money? Because money loves to be crushed on. It wants to be adored. It goes where money goes, where it's being taken care of and where it's multiplying. The concept behind the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, is, you always pay yourself first. That 10% of all of your income, regardless of where it comes from, gets saved, and then that investment grows. And your gold has gold. So the whole idea is you want your money, your children to have 7th, 8th generational children. And that's how we go. And what happens is a lot of times we'll invest in things that don't make our money multiply because we're doing the wrong investments. We want the get rich quick schemes. We want to make money as fast as we can. And then we'll ask people who aren't in the industry to help us multiply our money. And then we lose everything and we're like, what happened? So really paying attention, having that financial literacy and saying, okay, here are my expenses. Here are my needs and my wants. This is my income. I have 2 choices, either decrease the expenses or increase the income. And then I get to play. And how much can I do this? I saved 30% of my income towards retirement. And I gave away more than 10% throughout my lifetime because I'm a giver. So I found that there's 7 different money personalities. And with the money, there's Sam the Saver and Maverick the Moneymaker and Gary the Gambler. And we all have these personalities within us, but there's a dominant personality that drives what we do. So focusing on, our subconscious is that program that controls how we spend our money. So when we can focus on who we want to be like versus who we are when it comes to spending money or managing money, then we can start to change our thought process and take action steps to be a better steward of our money so that we feel secure with it. And we don't have to worry about, is there enough money to do this? Like, oh no, Uncle Sam, I owe him 12 grand. So what? Pay him. It's a bill that we have to pay. So just pay it.
All right. So I want to I want to make sure we circle back to the 7 personalities because you just gave us 3 and I want to list those out. So hold that thought for a second. I want to go back because you seemed hesitant to label any of this a budget, and that's fine. And I'm not trying to challenge you on that. But where I'm processing and thinking along the lines, depending on how long or short that business owner, entrepreneur is in their business, we all encounter, I'm self-employed, you're self-employed, we all encounter certain challenges. So if somebody's starting a new business, is that where you would say day one, you got to start putting that 10 or 20% away, even though cash flow is minimal? Like when we started from scratch, we borrowed money. I put every dime back into the business as fast as it was coming in because I was playing from scarcity. I didn't have a lot. The business is new. The commissions were small coming in as you're ramping up, right? There's a sales cycle to get paid on insurance commissions, right? And it takes months. If it's a life insurance case, it could take 6 months. So I didn't put myself in that position as you're describing. We had our expenses covered from an outside resource. So the business was able for our first 2+ years to just keep investing and expanding into things like paying for the podcast productions, right? Like that's another expense. So how would you frame this? There's going to be people in different stages of their business growth or age, right? Where now there's a little bit more profitability. There's a little bit more stability. Maybe they're not reinvesting as hard as they were versus somebody who's day one. I would feel that would be a big headwind to try and convince them to take 20, 30% and just put it aside while they're trying to build up a business with so many things to be paying for and investing in. So where do you see that kind of definition, the timing, where's the divining rod pointing? 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Like, how are you finding, or maybe what's more where your ideal client is? Am I making any sense on that question?
I think I'm kind of following what you're saying. So basically, I hate the word budget. Budget is very restrictive and it tells us, no, you can't do something, you can't have something. And when we think about like the bigger picture, when we're starting off like in a job or entrepreneurial, we all have expenses, right? We're all in the same boat as far as, we have to meet our 4 walls, we have to pay certain bills. But what tends to happen is people will go into, especially, entrepreneurs, they'll go into a situation and they think that they have to invest all this money in order to get where they want to get. So for example, when I first started online coaching in August of 20, I was told that I needed to, write a book, be omnipresent, get a website, create this, do all these things. And then, once I hit a certain point in my, revenue, then I could start paying for ads to get lead generation. And I didn't need any of that. I mean, I could have just started off organically and created a system and gotten results and just talked to people. It's a little bit slower, yes. But, everyone has a different point of view as far as like how, the more you invest, the more money you make. And that might not always be true, especially in a service-based industry like ours. A lot of people don't want to purchase certain products because do I really need that? It's too expensive. But if they think their investment is going to get them more money, they'll be really quick to invest in that, but only to see it fail. So a lot of business owners, before they even hit consistent months, will start having these operating expenses. They'll hire a team. They'll start investing in all these different things when they could do it less expensive. They can shop around. They could find out that they don't really need this. And once they hit these certain numbers, then they can invest. So it doesn't matter how much money you have. It's what you do with it. You can, if somebody doesn't know how to manage $1,000, they're not going to know how to manage $10,000.
Of course. Yeah. No, the training and the habit is what you're really talking about. I'm more, I'm digesting it a little bit as being 2.5 years in our business and, candidly not doing what you're saying because I'm putting every penny in the business, right? There's always something else, or I'm waiting for I have things lined up, waiting for the cash flow to come in to then add that X, Y, and Z to it. So again, it's just a matter of, what's the method to your madness as a business owner? And I feel like where Lisa's drawing in is to get some habits that if you don't start as early as possible, it may not be day one, it just may not be possible. But at some point, when you start getting into a positive cash flow situation, that you want to instill some of these habits to start taking those 10% buckets and building up those other components, or pulling it out of the business and using it on the personal side, right? Because you're kind of intertwining personal versus business in some of this conversation too. So,
Yeah.
So let's go back to our seven personalities, seven money personalities. So you had Sam the Saver. I heard that one. I'm going to write these down because I'm going to recap them later. So Sam the Saver.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard, well, who was the gambler?
Gary the gambler. Gary. Yeah.
Gary's the gambler.
Ian the investor.
Gambler. Ian is the investor. All right.
Hunter the hoarder.
Ah, Hunter.
Yeah. Grant the giver.
Grant. Oh, I like that. Grant. That's a good one.
Sam the saver.
All right. We got Sam the Saver.
Sell the spender.
Who? I'm sorry.
Sell the spender.
What's the name? I'm not hearing it.
Sale.
Sale?
Sale.
How are we spelling sale?
S-A-L.
Like S-A-L-E? Oh, S-A-L.
S-A-L. Yeah.
That's Sal.
Sal. Uh-huh.
Oh, what's your accent from? In Brooklyn, that's Sal. Come on, that's Sal with a slice of pizza.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's Sal from? Sal's the what?
Sal's the spender, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sal's the spender. He's got the big bankroll of cash. Go ahead.
He does. And you already have Maverick, the moneymaker.
No, I missed Maverick. Maverick.
Oh, Maverick.
Maverick, the moneymaker. All right. So these are the seven personalities.
Yes.
Moneymaker. And we all have a combination of, or we have a dominance from.
Yes, we're all, I mean, any personality test, we're all a little bit of something, right? But as with any personality test, we have we carry a higher percentage. So what drives us?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely a giver. I'm a giver, a spender, and a moneymaker.
Giver. All right. So you're Grant, Sal, and Maverick.
Yeah. So I love to give away money.
You need my address? What do you need? My Venmo? What can what can I do to get on the list? I like that.
You have to have a good cause. What are we supporting?
Well, I've earlier in the years I was definitely a Gary.
Yeah. Gary
the gambler. I'm an investor, I guess. Not a hoarder. Hoarder, and when it comes to money, like penny pinching, like never gives up a nickel.
Yeah, and the flip side of a hoarder is they are so sentimental. They love to hold on to things, heirlooms and things that they get from, passed on from generations. They just want to keep that because it's so special to them.
But is it like the guy who still has the first $5 bill he earned when he was 16 in his wallet? Yep. Like he don't spend. I call it the broken thumbs. Their hand don't go in their pocket because their thumb's broken and they can't. Yep. They never seem to reach for the dinner check. That's the hoarder.
Yep, that's the hoarder.
that's not Grant the giver. That's
we
for
don't
sure.
like to go out to dinner with the hoarder.
Yeah, I get that one. Yeah, they're so that's pretty funny. So folks, think about. I'm going to read them again. So we got Sam the Saver, Gary the gambler, Ian the investor. Sorry, I can't read my own handwriting. Hunter the hoarder, Grant the giver. So we got 2 G's in there. Sal the spender, 2 S's, and Maverick. Is it an acronym at all? I got them out of order, but no acronym for it. And Maverick, the money maker. So like an entrepreneur, business guy is always wheeling and dealing type of thing. So
multiple income streams.
So those listening who aren't driving, jot down your top 2, 3, and think about what Lisa's sharing with us of where you fall, and are you kind of in her quadrant buckets or not? And then what you might be able to do to improve upon where, maybe one of these got to be back on your list and trying to change some of your habits, right? That's what we're kind of talking about. I like that. So did you come up with those?
I did.
You did? Wow.
I came up with the whole concept, the money dating game. Did you remember the dating game from the 70s?
Let's blow a kiss.
Yep. We hope you always get the date that you want.
So you brought that up. Did we cover that properly when we talk about the dating game of money?
We talked a little bit about it. Yeah. So I've been personifying money since I was a kid. When I grew up, we all grew up with money idioms, and my family, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. And once my parents split, their businesses split as well. So my mom had to start all over again. And it was always I got to borrow from Peter to pay Paul. She was one of those entrepreneurs who took all of her money and put it back into her business, but all the 4 walls were always met. But she used to play this game with, back then you used to write checks when you went to the grocery store. And she used to play this game where, she'd write a check and write it for cash over. And we'd go grocery shopping on Friday. She'd work Saturday because she was a cosmetologist. And so she'd get all of her tips, run to the bank on Monday to make sure the check didn't bounce. So she'd have enough money to cover, gas or whatever she needed to do. So there was always this game of borrowing computer to pay Paul. And she used to say, money goes where money is. And I'd be like, I want to be where money is. So we all have imaginary friends. So my imaginary friend, was a little money guy. And anytime I found money, I would like celebrate, and we would go down to the local soda fountain shop, and I would treat all my friends, and we would get, ice cream sodas and things like that. So I was always looking for money, and I used to find $20 bills all the time when I was like 7, 8 years old. And I used to be like,
good. You were in Granny's purse, probably.
No. I would find them on the ground. You want to go find money, go near a bar where all the drunks drop their money. When I grew up down the street, there was a bar and a restaurant bar, and my friends and I used to play around there, and we'd find $20 bills all the time. So hold on now. Let me get this straight. You're 6 or 7 years old and you're rolling drunks in the bar at 7 years of age? Yeah, that was it.
So we got the money multiplier system. We got the wealth activation. Let's expand on that a little bit. I don't think we hit all of the points of this wealth activation itself. So you want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah. So being a wealth activator is all about connecting your thoughts with your feelings to get the actions that you want to take to get the results that you want. So a lot of times we think about making money, like, oh, what's the best way? Everyone wants to make 10K months, right? That's the common goal for most of the ladies in my realm. Well, what do you need to do to make 10K months? Or, like if you're in the insurance world, how many apps do you need to write to make your goal, right? So we set this intention, but then we never go after it. We're not activating wealth. We're just talking about it. And we can talk all we want, but nothing's going to materialize. And there's all these, things out there about, just manifest it and all of this. It's like, no, if you really truly want to activate wealth, envision yourself, hang out with wealthy people, do wealthy things. Like, how does your life change when you start to think about wealth? And to truly activate wealth, you have to know what the end goal is. And so like I spent 30 years working at Social Security Administration, watching all kinds of people from the poorest to the poor to the most wealthy. I remember interviewing doctors who had, the numbers on their paycheck was like, wow, and that was just their paycheck. It didn't even talk about their assets or their, their business income and all that other stuff. And I would ask him like, oh, what's your portfolio look like? Let's check this out. And, I worked with a lot of self-employment people where I'd have to look and see, we'd have to do these questionable retirement tests on them. So I got to dig deep into people's finances, which was a lot of fun. But I saw what they did. And the people that were really, really wealthy were always thinking wealthy. They were always activating wealth. They were always thinking, okay, what can I do with this money? But then when they would pass it on to generations, like I was a trust cadre, so I would review trust, and these young adults who grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth basically would inherit these trusts and blow through millions of dollars in less than a year. And I'd be like, are you kidding me? What did you buy? Right. And they didn't have an understanding. They were totally financially illiterate when it came to managing this money. They just couldn't do it. They didn't have the skill set, but they grew up with it. So why didn't they have the ability to activate wealth? Because they chose not to. They chose not to learn, and because they were so taken care of. So when we activate wealth, we gather the facts, we do the research, and we really look to say, like, what's the result? What's the purpose of all this? Like, why being wealthy isn't just about the zeros, the numbers in your bank account. It's about the state of mind that you're in, what you're going to do, how you're going to help others, how are you going to live your life differently? Because there's wealthy people who work 95 hours a week, it's ridiculous how much time they're spending working.
So you mentioned the rich guy's heirs blowing through the assets. Do you ever read the book, Millionaire Next Door?
Yeah.
Eye-opening for me when it first came out, and, being in the financial advisory space, it put a lot of ahas together that you could then, in the psychology of what you're dealing with on your clients, take some of those. And absolutely 100%, I had a client that literally was no more than the maintenance guy like literally cutting the grass at Johnson and Johnson's headquarters, making whatever, 40, 50 grand a year, very modest living, but retired with like $1 million of Johnson and Johnson stock in his 401k and maybe some stock options. And he was a millionaire next door, but he didn't live like it. I mean, the guy makes 40, 50 grand a year, and his wife worked at, Sears or Kmart. Like, they were very humble, modest people, but they came to one of my seminars back in the day, and it's like, I got like this $1 million. What am I supposed to do with it? Because it was never managed. It just kind of sat there, and he probably just got stock given to him, not knowing what else to do. And then, we diversified it and protected it and did other things. But to the point of the book where Lisa's kind of drawn in is the flip side is the tone of the book is right up what Lisa's talking about here is people with wealth. You know who Shaquille O'Neal is? I assume. Right. So Shaquille O'Neal, the basketball player, says to his kids all the time, because his kids think they're rich. Mm-hmm. And he says, you're not rich. I'm rich. Right. You go make your own money, because he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars with his endorsements and everything else. And so the problem and the trap, and I guess the theme behind the book, and it's probably 25 years since the book came out, is the person who has the wealth, the doctor, the attorney, the business owner, he creates a lifestyle based on his income that the children grow up in. But they're not taught the habits of how to manage the money. They're just expected in living in, and they're, it's, the kid who drives the BMW at a high school versus me buying $1,000 shebanger, right, from my neighbor, and I had to work 2 jobs that summer to get it. Like, my car means more to me. My savings and my habits are different because I had to go get it. Nobody bought it for me. So when my kids started driving, I'm like, you pick out what you want, you're paying half. What do you mean I'm paying half? Well, a third technically, because my ex-wife paid a third. We each paid a third. But that's how we raised the kids, was if you want it so bad, we'll participate, but I'm not buying it for you. You put up your money, your mother will pay a third, I'll pay a third. And that's how we treated it. Same with their educations, frankly. Even though we had the money, they had skin in the game. You walked out with student loans, that's your piece. You want to take a 5th year, you're carrying the debt, right? You want to get out in 3 years, so be it. But, no free ride, right? No free rides. And so you try and instill some habits in the youth, the kids. So the millionaire next door, to where Lisa's coming from, is these kids didn't get any of these habits. Mommy or daddy gave them whatever they wanted. They amassed wealth and left it to the kids without the training and the abilities to manage, and I'll throw the budget word out, but treat it in a sense of, well, you can't just drink the whole gallon and throw it away, and now you're broke the second year. And it's like somebody winning the lottery. They go broke pretty quick because they don't know how to manage or siphon out the money. So, it's a good correlation and a good point. Man, you got so many topics here. What else you want to tie in with this? What are your go-to points that we didn't hit yet?
My go-to points is just, when you have a money management system in place that's aligned with what your goals are, it's going to work for you. And I hear over and over again, but I don't have money. I'm on a limited income. My income is unpredictable. It doesn't matter how much you have or where it's coming from. It's what you do with it. And if you can implement the money multiplier system and just begin there, that's going to help you see. It's going to give you that security blanket, that sense of, okay, I do have money. I am a good steward. Now, what's really important to me? And look at your expenses, date money. Like, sit down with money once a week, go over your portfolio, celebrate the assets, your net worth. That's huge. Like, do you know how much you're worth? And how can you make that grow even more? And when you pay attention that way to what exactly you're doing, like every dollar has a job, like Dave Ramsey says, you're going to see wealth, you're going to see growth, you're going to see a different perspective. And I like to say, with money buckets, we have money goals, right? So if you think about your bucket list, each of those money buckets is a goal for you to have. Like, do you want to travel? Do you want a fancy new car? Like, what is it how do you want to spend your money and your time? And if you can tie that in together into what you truly want to do, it makes it fun with finances, and it's not restrictive, and it's not something that you have to dread.
We call it Woody Woofy. What do you want for yourself? That's the acronym we use, right? So begin with the end in mind. What do you want? How to work back. But, I wanted to touch on something because you said it a little bit ago and it escaped me for a second, but you talked about your mother and how you were brought up with money. And I think it correlates to the challenge we're dealing with today, which is why what you're offering is so important to instill. It's patterns, behaviors, and habits. So assuming we're similar in age, our parents come out of the Depression era.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that generation, the greatest generation, let's call it, like the baby boomer. My folks are pre-baby boomers, but they come out of the Depression, and their parents, my grandparents, dealt with that. So what was learned then in their upbringing, having come through Depression or immigrants coming from the old country, in our family's world, Russia and Poland and Germany and all that, scarcity. It's all about scarcity and limit and making the American way. And then as the generations roll over, and my parents may be more successful certainly than their parents, and then you and I emulate from, and we gleam. This is what happens: is we gleam what we like and don't like from what we've grown up within, right? Like I'm not a manager. I don't have people working for me, but I've always looked at managers that I worked through or under going, that guy's a jerk. I would never treat somebody like that. I would do it this way, right? So that's gleaming, right? That's taking that, saying, I'll never treat Lisa that way. Like, that's just not how I would interact with somebody, right? But there are plenty of managers that are just total, I'll curse, but I don't want to curse, a-holes, right? Yeah. So just total jerks. So in the same sense of money, as, I was very conscientious not to make my kids spoiled brats because I was successful. I didn't come up with that wealth. We were lower middle class, divorced family. I had to get, work at a young age if I wanted to have spending money. Mm-hmm. My folks split when I was 8 and my mother worked, and we were those latchkey kids. My brother and I would come home. Once I got to a certain age, we came home, no babysitters, and my mother worked. And so once I got, it snowed, you went out and shoveled snow, and neighbors, you had to do your house first and then go and you make 10, 15, 20 bucks and you do as many houses, and you're racing the other neighborhood kids to get to the neighbors that needed it, right? You pick up 20, 40 bucks every snowstorm. So I didn't sit home. Like, these kids are like looking at me when my kids were growing up. It's like, well, you got a snow blower, right? Like, they never got up to go shovel the snow. They got a day off. When I was a kid, it was like, I can go make money. Like, I wasn't like, I could watch cartoons all day. When's the price is right on? Like, I was out shoveling snow till it was dark because you could make money. And I had paper out and I cut grass, right? And then I got my driver's license. I was delivering pizzas. Like, you had to work. So my kids were spoiled because I didn't want them to do the things I had to suffer through as a kid. And then I started to see behaviors and I'm like, I got to put a halt to this. And that's where the 1/3 stuff started coming in and saying no, because I heard no all the time as a kid. No, I don't have the money. That's all I ever heard out of my father. I don't have the money. No. So when, we'd see him on a Saturday, my dad really only came out on Saturdays to see us. And it was very limited, and it was a lot of no's. And he never took us on much of vacations. Like, we just never had that. So ergo, I mentioned I have an ex-wife. So, I got the kids when we were divorced, and everything I did in my career path, my spending, my earning capacity was to give my kids the memories while we had the ability. I mean, my youngest is 28, so my oldest is 32. So the kids are, well grown out of the house, but I did everything I could, knowing how fleeting that time was and how little I got that out of my dad. I didn't want to be that dad to them. And so that's how I started to define money, is what can money do for me in that time, that 18-year window that I have with my kids till they leave the nest. And then, hopefully as they're adults, they made their own way. So I'm proud that all 3 of my kids, the youngest is my stepson. He has a job with a salary in the hotel business. He's moved up the ladder. He's gotten promotions and changed jobs, and he's doing very well. He's the only one that owns a home. So he's really, positioned himself. But my 2 personal kids are both self-employed, somewhat entrepreneurs doing, they're making their way in the social media world, influencer. My one son's a gluten-free cooking.
Nice.
Has a gluten-free cooking show. I'll plug it. Glass of Weinstein, for everybody listening. Everybody knows Matt by now. So Glass of Weinstein, which is our last name. He's gluten-free. He'll be 30. And he's got sponsors, and he lives in New York City. He's an actor. He was a theater kid growing up. never finished college with a formal degree, but he's got my entrepreneurial like thirst. Like, and so now I'm teaching him business. You know, he's part of my mastermind group, you know, that we work on. So I'm like, you got to come, you're going to learn from others, not just from me. Because, you know, the kids don't necessarily want to hear it from their parent.
Right.
And then my older one has a kind of a social media. It's Maverick Media. And, you know, he bartends and does other stuff to make more money because he has the time, but he has clients and works for himself. So, you know, I did something right, I hope, in instilling. But like you asked me earlier, like, were my parents entrepreneurs? No, they weren't. So my ex is a CPA, you know, so she works for a living. You know, she has to do the CPA thing. So, you know, my kids at least got or saw something in my drive. And, you know, I mean, are they doing what you're encouraging people to do with their money? I know Matthew, the glass of Weinstein, like he's shared with me like what he does. So he's putting money away. He's doing, you know, he went to Italy by himself last year for a month. He's planning on doing it again this October. So, you know, he's got, what was the eat, pray, eat. It's on the woman's side. What is it? Eat, pray.
Love, eat, pray.
love, eat, pray. Yeah. Matthew's love eating and praying through Italy, and he wants to go back and by himself. And I was petrified, like my kid's going to go to Europe by himself, like not even with a friend. But anyway, but again, as much as a parent, I was concerned, but I was like so proud of his gumption, right? Like that takes chutzpah. That takes a lot of courage to be comfortable in your own skin. And by the way, you know, I'm a Jewish 5'11". I'm over 200 pounds. Matthew's like 5'4" and a $130 dripping wet. Matthew's not a formidable figure. So he could be easily like, you know, somebody could pick him up and dump him in the, you know, in the Rhine or whatever. But anyway, we're off base. Lisa, this has been delightful. I'm looking at the clock, so I think we should start wrapping up a little bit. But I would definitely love to have you back, and we can really, I would want to debrief with you to make sure we get some good nuggets on a whole Social Security conversation. And that's definitely something in my my episodes that is missing. So we could talk offline and get another date on the calendar. But any closing thoughts? I'll start to wrap it up for you, but we hit a lot of awesome topics. Anything else that you wanted to make sure we got to today?
No, I think we covered everything. Just like I said earlier, a lot of people doubt like, oh, the money multiplier system isn't going to work for me. You know, and we all say that out of ignorance, because until you try something, we don't know if it's going to work or not. So I challenge you to try it for 21 days and see what happens. And if you want help realigning your finances, because most of the people I hop on a call with, it's called a wealth activation solution call. In 20 minutes, I will give you a solution, one solution that's going to help you start dating money and start falling in love with money, head over heels in love with money, so that you can create this beautiful generational wealth of this legacy that you want to leave. Because it truly doesn't matter how much you make, it's what you do with it.
I'm going to preface this. I'm not trying to offend anybody of any faith, but I'm going to make the joke like I need a Mormon relationship with money. I need multiple wives. I need multiple money relationships, right? So you want to get in tune with that. And I think mostly what you're really saying is appreciate the money, what it can do for you, the power of it. You know, again, the conversation's really not about budgeting, as you've said. It's not kind of your framing of things, but at the end of the day, money drives everything, and you need to prioritize where it goes. And as Lisa's saying here, pay yourself first and have a good relationship with money. That money doesn't become a trap, which a lot of people use as excuses, right? Where you had here, who was he? The Gary the gambler, right? So I never have enough money. I always need more. And I'm going to take unnecessary risk in hopes of multiplying it 35 to 1 at roulette, right? So Gary the gambler versus somebody who is Ian the investor and was it Maverick the moneymaker. You put your money in the right directions, whether it's passive or otherwise, and let your money work for you and leverage your time. And that's the entrepreneurial spirit and way. And I think at the core of it, Lisa, that's where you're driving home is. And once you have those foundations, well, now you're marrying your money. You're not just dating it and being a serial dater, right? You're just getting rid of your money's constantly turning over. I mean, look, and that was the point I was saying of the difference in the generations is a lot of the younger people, when you say living paycheck to paycheck, they get paid Friday and they're out drinking Friday night and they blow their whole paycheck. And then what's even worse, and we didn't really get into it, is everybody wants everything now, and then they run up credit cards.
Yeah.
Which then becomes that dynamic play of, well, now I'm always behind because now I got to service the credit cards and the interest rate on the credit card, right? So you pay yourself first, you get a cash reserve built up, you have some money put aside, you try, again, I don't know your views and opinions on, debt or not debt, and there's good debt and there's bad debt. So, credit card debt's not good debt. Homeowner debt, you could say, is good debt. But, you want to use it in the right ways in your personal life so that you're not hemorrhaging money and money's going out to service the debt versus having it come in, working for you. I love the little, what's the commercial with the little squirrels made out of money and the acorns, and it's one of the annuity companies, I think, or life insurance companies. But it's putting your nuts away for the rainy day. Like, you got to have your money there for you. And the problem is people don't know how to say no, not now, and they just pull out the credit card.
Well, they do know how to say no, not now. They just say it to the wrong things.
I guess, yeah. Well, again, one of the biggest things I did in my years was unravel people's credit cards. Like, we used to have a jar on our desks with the scissors, and the jar said plastic surgery. And we'd have them cut up their credit cards and perform plastic surgery because you can't get financially healthy if you're constantly playing from behind, right? Exactly. And so we got to fix the debt and the outflow. If you can't save 10% because you're paying 20% credit card interest, well, as soon as you get rid of the credit card interest, now you could save that money, right? And give Lisa the 20% you needed. So there's a disconnect. But if it's always going the wrong way because you overspend and don't live within, you said, the four walls, right? So anyway, we'll continue that at another conversation. So Lisa, how can people reach you if they'd like to engage with you, a consultation, or hire you, work with you? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you? Give it to them verbally, and we'll put it in the show notes.
Yep. idatemoney.com.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah, very easy.
That's it? iDateMoney?
idatemoney.com. There's a little chat box you can click on. You can go through the money dating game, schedule an appointment. You can listen to my podcast and check out the program. It's a fun website. And
iDateMoney is the name of the podcast also?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So who's the guy that blows the kiss from the dating game? What was his name?
Oh, I don't remember his name.
Jim something? Jim, it wasn't Bob Eubanks. Bob Eubanks was the Newlywed Game. So that's part 2 of your money story. So we got the Newlywed Game. So Lisa, it's delightful to get to know you and have you on the Planman today. So thank you so much. So folks, if you want to reach out to her, iDateMoney, the letter I, DATE, money.com, and her podcast also under the same name. This has been Lisa Drennon joining us today, talking about iDateMoney, the Wealth Activator, the Money Multiplier System. So we've got 7 personalities. Which one are yours? Make your list, own up to it. I've already got my 3 circled, and I need some changes too. So I might be giving Lisa a call. This has been another episode of Ask the Planman. Please like, share, subscribe. Lisa's audience, come find us at planman.tv. My audience, please find Lisa at idatemoney.com and her podcast as well. Share, like, subscribe. We all appreciate your support ongoing. If you have any questions, you could always call me at 844-PLANMAN, Bruce at asktheplanman.com. Until next time, when you need some advice, always get it right. Come ask the Planman. I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein. Thanks for joining us. Lisa, again, thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you.
When you need some advice, never sacrifice, always get it right. Ask the Planman. Finance, insurance, and more.